This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who, at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, Special Prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. As always, we have a great show. And in particular, I always say, we just don't report the news. We make the news, and we're making the news this week. I am in Las Vegas, Nevada. Just got back for a day, but I'm going right back there early next week because the opening arguments in the Bundy case are about ready to begin. Of course, you know all about Klayman Bundy. You know that he's that brave Nevada rancher who stood up to government tyranny. There was a successful standoff. People came to his assistance. The government was trying to take his land away from him like Snidely Whiplash of my youth in cartoons. Harry Reid was behind it. They were trying to sell the land off to Chinese environmental interests. Dirty Harry, as we call him, obviously was going to get kickbacks on that deal with his son Rory. And they got the Obama administration to finally indict Bundy after that successful standoff. And, of course, I believe he was indicted because he used a politically incorrect word, Negro, which incidentally happens to be the same word that Martin Luther King used to refer to his people. He didn't mean any harm. He was actually trying to equate himself with the plight of the Negro in the Old South, that they were both being persecuted. So, anyway, we're in this trial. And what comes up right before trial, because we went through jury selection this week, but the fact that there was documents and evidence withheld by the prosecution, by the FBI, by the Bureau of Land Management, highly prejudicial to Klayman Bundy and the other defendants. In fact, we found out that documents were being shredded in a command center right before the successful standoff. And then we found there were video cameras surrounding the home of Klayman Bundy, which likely are recording or did record what was going on, which was just simply a peaceful protest. In fact, the only people that were harmed were the Bundy family themselves. Klayman's sister Margaret was thrown to the ground. His two sons were tased. His dog was nearly killed, violently kicked. And several cattle, tens of cattle, the bulls, the ones that procreate for the herd, were killed and buried in a mass grave. This is an example of what went on in the years leading up to the American Revolution. It's the reason why we fought the revolution. You cannot have a federal government or any despot do these things to the American people and get away with it. And that's why this case is so important. Now, yesterday, I brought a lawsuit on behalf of Klayman Bundy in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. You can find that at www.larryklayman.com, www.larryklayman.com. We're also going to get it up on the Klayman Bundy Defense Fund.org, Klayman Bundy Defense Fund.org website. And please contribute to Klayman's cause. This is going to be a 3 to 4 month trial. But this lawsuit, it's a separate lawsuit, seeks to have the Justice Department and its Office of Professional Responsibility and its Inspector General investigate this prosecutorial misconduct. Because the prosecutors out there in Nevada who are Obama holdovers. I've asked Attorney General Sessions to review the case. He's got so many problems of his own with Special Counsel Mueller's investigation and charges that he lied to Congress under oath that he's taken an exit stage left. I had filed these complaints with OPR and IG, that's the abbreviation, to get an investigation as to the abuse, the fact that this prosecution is a political prosecution, and the key evidence has been withheld from trial, exculpatory evidence, which would show Klayman's and the other defendants' innocence. Now, Klayman's going to trial with two of his sons, Ammon and Ryan, and someone who also came to help him, Ryan Payne. The government claims he's a militia leader. Well, you know what? Militias are legal under our Second Amendment. That's the right to bear arms, and we have the right to form militias. They're not illegal as long as they're obeying the law. And Ryan Payne obeyed the law as well. And this is a very, very serious matter when the government destroys evidence. We know that they shredded evidence. They lied under oath about not having surveillance there. The federal prosecutor gets up, Steve Myre, the acting U.S. attorney, an Obama holdover, and lies to the judge and thinks he can get away with it. And this judge, of course, is very favorably disposed to the prosecution. She's a hand-picked appointee of President Obama, recommended by Harry Reid himself. So I felt that we had to bring an independent action in Washington, D.C. It's called a writ of mandamus, to have the federal court order the Justice Department to investigate this matter with its internal investigatory agencies, the Office of Professional Responsibility and the Inspector General. Now, OPR is kind of like a bar association for Justice Department lawyers. They investigate ethical and legal violations. The Inspector General is the investigative arm of the Department of Justice. And we know, and we just found this out in an evidentiary hearing in the last few weeks, that the FBI was intimately involved in the illegal raid on the Bundy ranch. The FBI was behind it. We even had the U.S. attorney at the time, Daniel Bugden, and two assistants out at the Bundy ranch before anything ever happened, because they were planning to indict Bundy before anything took place. This thing is a fix. It's a political persecution. It's typical Obama. It's typical Loretta Lynch. It's typical Eric Holder. It's typical all of these ultra-leftists who want to destroy anyone who won't roll over to government power. And when Klayman used the word Negro, that was it for Obama. You know, he took offense to that. And he called Obama a racist, and he threatened him at a White House Correspondents' Dinner. And sure enough, Klayman and his sons were indicted a few years later. And this is a outrage. So we're hoping that in this lawsuit, which we brought, that we'll get a federal judge who will have the integrity to simply order that the Office of Professional Responsibility and the Inspector General conduct a thorough investigation. I've asked Sessions to do it. He took an exit stage left. He said, I'm not taking sides. He's frankly acted as a coward. He's protecting his own interests, but not the interests of the American people, much less Klayman Bundy and his family. It's an absolute disgrace. So we've had to ask the judge to step in. Now, I'm still hopeful that Attorney General Sessions, who's otherwise a nice man — of course, I don't know how you can be nice when you're not meting out justice — but I hope that he will wake up. This complaint asks that the court, once an investigation is complete, order him to withdraw the charges against Klayman Bundy and to dismiss the case. So I want you all to go to KlaymanBundyDefenseFund.org. This is a 3 to 4 month trial. I'm playing a role. Right now I'm giving advice. I've resubmitted an application, pro hac vice, to come in as counsel of record, but it's very costly. So we need your strong financial support. KlaymanBundyDefenseFund.org. And go to my private website, because I'm representing Klayman in my personal capacity, at www.larryklayman.com, and read about this complaint. You see, I just don't wait for things to happen. I make things happen. In this day and age, as I said during our last interview, our last radio show, there are really almost no lawyers in this country that will put the interests of their clients ahead of their own interests. And we see that time in and time out. I'm not a local counsel in Las Vegas. I can do things stronger than our local counsels can, because they have to practice there going forward before this judge and other judges. And we need someone that will stand up to not just these prosecutors who are totally dishonest. They've lost nearly every case so far with other defendants that are desperate to get a conviction. This judge is out there to help them get a conviction. She's the hand-picked judge of Harry Reid, the most corrupt senator in modern history. And this has become literally a kangaroo court. And someone needs to take a stand. Someone needs to put his head on the chopping block. I've been the lawyer that does that, and frankly, I think I'm only the only lawyer in this country that will do that. And whatever happens, happens. And I'll take the consequence. because this country is going down the drain. And the Klayman Bundy trial is an example of that. Because if what happened to Klayman Bundy can not be meted out in terms of justice, the same thing can happen to you and your loved ones. We are all at risk. This government that we have today, by and large, acts in a way only to protect itself, and it metes out injustice to its citizens. Because Washington, D.C. is more than a swamp. It has become a Sodom and Gomorrah of corruption and deceit. It is the temple in Jerusalem. It's the temple. The money changers are in control, and that temple needs to be legally torn down. Legally torn down. Otherwise, we're going to have to resort to other means, and I don't want to see that happen. I'm not going to advocate violence, but I'll tell you something. This country is going to erupt in flames. And with the left out there trying to destroy everybody in its wake, trying to destroy President Trump, trying to conjure up false allegations of sexual abuse, and we're going to talk about that later, and I'm not talking about Harvey Weinstein. He deserves what's coming to him and the other degenerates in the Hollywood left. I'm talking about these days everybody is a sexual abuser, everybody's a racist, everybody is doing things which are contrary to what the left wants, and we have groups like Antifa out there and George Soros and Black Lives Matter and others who are set to destroy this country. They're going to take it down to ground zero, and they're going to build it back in their own socialist, communist, anarchistic, atheist way. That is what we are facing, and that's why each week I come to you to educate the American people that we need to rise up as we did in 1776. We cannot be afraid. We have to do what needs to be done. And right now we're doing it legally. But if it doesn't happen that way, I'm afraid that the masses are going to rise up and it's going to be done another way. And I don't want to see that happen. We'll be right back with more Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. I want you all to listen carefully.
Dangerous.
You don't hear, use the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I want to talk more about the investigation of Robert Mueller, the special counsel. Of course, I have asked to be appointed as special counsel by President Trump, ordering his Justice Department to do it because Sessions is too afraid to investigate the Democrats on the Clinton email scandal, on Fusion GPS, and on Uranium One scandals. I'm probably the only one, no holds barred, that can do it. So go to and sign our petition at freedomwatchusa.org. We already have thousands of people who have signed up to order the Justice Department to appoint me special counsel, because I'll tell you something, when I'm special counsel, we'll get some results. We won't have these mamby-pambies up there doing patty cakes, running up a bill at taxpayer expense. We'll take Hillary Clinton out. We'll take everybody else out who's committed these crimes, and we'll get them indicted, and we'll get them tried, and we'll have them thrown in prison for the rest of their lives. I guarantee that if I'm special counsel. But let's talk about this Mueller investigation, him having indicted Paul Manafort and Rick Gates. Okay, who are these people? Paul Manafort, of course, was the campaign chairman of the Trump presidential campaign for a while. Before that, he was a partner in a law firm called Black, Manafort, Stone, and Kelly. Gates was part of that, too. These were young guys who helped Republican presidents get elected, President Reagan, President Bush, others, and then they would cash in on that as lobbyists, which I don't approve of, by the way, but that's the way it works in Washington. Get a president elected and then sell your access to that president or other people that are prominent in Washington, D.C. Now, regardless of that, Manafort was charged by Mueller for things that he did before he became campaign manager. This is a hit. They're trying to flip Manafort. They're trying to get him to say something that President Trump colluded with the Russians, did something illegal. It's an attempt to bring him down. We know who Mueller is. Mueller is a political hack. Mueller ran the FBI during Uranium One. He covered it up. He ran it during Fusion GPS. He's deep sixed a number of things over there. He's a Democrat in sheep's clothing. Okay, he claims he's a Republican, but the Republicans aren't any better these days, believe me. So he indicts Manafort. It gets assigned to a judge who I've had experience with, named Amy Berman Jackson. I had her in a case, and we still have her. It's up on appeal for the sons of Pat Smith and Charles Woods, great heroes, Sean Smith and Ty Woods. They were at Benghazi. They died with Ambassador Chris Stevens because Hillary Clinton used a private email server in communicating with the ambassador. That was unsecured, and of course the terrorists got access to that. They knew the coordinates, and they were able to kill our client's son. So we brought a case for wrongful death, and we brought a case for defamation against Hillary Clinton. Amy Berman Jackson dismisses the case without cause. It's up on appeal. We're confident it's going to come back. When does she do it? On the eve of Memorial Day last year. Gold Star parents sticking it up the derriere of our clients, doing a favor for Hillary Clinton. This is a judge who, frankly, is a political hack. Now, what did she do this week? She was assigned the case of Manafort and Gates, the criminal prosecution of Mueller. First of all, Manafort wants to be out on his own recognizance so he can defend himself. He puts up $12 million in bond. Now, the purpose for incarcerating somebody while he's being charged and being tried is if he'll flee the jurisdiction. Well, $12 million is a good reason not to flee. But Amy Berman Jackson's not content with $12 million because she wants to have Manafort appear as a hardened criminal. So she says he's going to remain under house arrest. And then what does she do beyond that? She has a gag order put on, so Manafort's lawyers can't even speak publicly about the case at the same time that you have CNN, the Communist News Network, MSNBC, and other left-wing media destroying Manafort to get to Trump. This judge is corrupt, and this is an example of what we've got in our legal system today. I wanted to bring this to your attention because this is why I founded Judicial Watch years ago, which now I do the same thing I did at Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch does mostly just document requests. We actually bring hard-hitting cases, and I'm up with these judges all the time, and they're highly politicized. They're about 90% of the people on the bench that are serving as federal judges are ultra-leftist political hacks. There are some good judges, and we seek them, but I want you to know what we're dealing with, and this is another reason why you must support Freedom Watch. Go to freedomwatchusa.org because we have a judicial selection strike force where we're trying to get honest judges on the bench. We will be right back with more of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. In the meantime, go to our website at freedomwatchusa.org. Please donate to our cause. We are your Justice Department. We are your only Justice Department.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
Couple the corruption that we've seen with prosecutors, the corruption we've seen recently with the FBI and the Bundy case. And the FBI has been caught with its hand in the cookie jar, hiding documents now over and over again in the last several years, not just with regard to the meeting of Bill Clinton with Loretta Lynch on the tarmac, not just with regard to Hillary Clinton's emails and everything else. I mean, this agency has become a literal cesspool of corruption, and I hope that under the new FBI director, he will take control and clean it up, because frankly, it's become a national disgrace. Now, couple that corruption with the corruption on the bench that I've just talked to you about, Amy Berman Jackson being a primary example of a political hack on the bench, and you've got a situation where we're now seeing in the media and elsewhere a Salem witch trial. Okay, now look, sexual harassment is bad. Racism is bad. We don't condone it. But now it's being thrown around like candy. Anybody who's anybody who you want to take down gets accused of being a racist or being a sexist, or being a misogynist. And, of course, who started this whole thing? It was Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. They play the race card. They play the sex card. They play any card they can to try to divide this country. And, of course, their leftist supporters and the groups behind them, like Antifa and others, Black Lives Matter, Louis Farrakhan, Nation of Islam, Al Sharpton, the whole lot of them, there is no limit to who they won't destroy with regard to these charges. Now, a lot of these charges, some of them are true. Okay, we know that Harvey Weinstein is a sexual degenerate in Hollywood. We know that a lot of Hollywood is in a similar situation. And now Hollywood, who never addressed these issues, has been outed. They've had to come out of their sexual degenerate closet, and people are paying a price. Everybody's known that for a long time. But all of these charges that everybody is a sexist and everybody's a misogynist and everybody's a racist, it's out of control. It's becoming like the Salem witch trials. Now, just in the last few days, we have an allegation that's being made by 4 alleged women who have been silent for 38 years against Judge Roy Moore, who's running for the U.S. Senate in Alabama. I had Judge Moore on this show several shows ago. I know Judge Moore. At one time, Judge Moore, who stood up for the 10 Commandments to put it in his courtroom. By the way, our legal system is based on the 10 Commandments. It's not just a fiction, but that is the basis of our legal system. And it was the basis of the Napoleonic Code back in France, who, was modernized legal systems throughout the world. It was Napoleon who did that. He based it on the Hebraic legal system, which included the 10 Commandments. Well, Judge Moore wanted those 10 Commandments in his courthouse, and that's no different than what we have at the U.S. Supreme Court. The 10 Commandments are actually there above the bench of the 9 justices who sit on the Supreme Court. Well, Judge Moore stood up for that, and of course they impeached him for that. And at one point, I had a very good friend. He was an evangelical by the name of Ed McAteer, who loved Israel. He used to joke that he was a Palmolive soap salesman and then became an evangelical minister. He wanted Roy Moore and I to go to Israel and to carry the 10 Commandments down from Mount Sinai to make a point. And I was going to do that. I thought that was a great idea. I could have seen the burning bush on the way down. But I wouldn't want to see George Bush. I wanted to see the burning bush. So I was about ready to go, and of course there was an uprising in Israel. It was called the Intifada, where the Palestinians rose up and started to create a lot of issues, and we couldn't go. But Judge Roy Moore, in my opinion, is a great man. He's a Christian. And whether these allegations are true or not, and frankly, I doubt that they are, but that doesn't really matter the way this whole thing is being handled, because it's a smear job. And in this country, you're guilty until proven innocent if someone accuses you of this. Now, I'm going to play a clip. Our great producer, Al's going to play it for you, of a British media star named Katie Hopkins. You've seen her on Fox News. She's very courageous. She's very outspoken. She's very articulate. Sean Hannity had her on his radio show yesterday, and I was listening to it as I was traveling around doing some errands. And it struck me that she's the only one who's come out and says it like it is. Now, after Sean had her on his show, he's now being smeared this morning by the Huffington Post for phony sexual harassment allegations that were leveled against him months ago at Fox News. It's an inquisition. It's a Salem witch hunt. And frankly, men are susceptible to this because, one of the things in society today, it's unfair, and I respect women, and I think that some of these allegations are true. Not with regard to Roy Moore, I don't believe it, and I don't believe it with regard to Sean or people like that who the left wants to take down. But once these allegations are made, the women can make them, and they walk off scot-free. One of the major commandments is thou shalt not bear false witness. Well, that's what happens. It happens all the time in divorce court, in custody court, in all kinds of court. Women can do these kinds of things and just walk off and leave the wreckage behind. And that's unfortunate. Not all women. There are a lot of women who wouldn't do that. There are a lot of women who will condemn it. And Katie Hopkins is one of them. So, Al, go. Play the clip. Let's hear what she has to say.
I am pointing the finger straight at, let's just pick this one woman that's been talking about with Roy Moore, allegedly. You know, I am pointing my finger at her, and I'm saying to that woman, you disgust me. You spent 38 years thinking about this before you said anything. Now you decide to speak. You disgust me, because what you're doing, woman, is you're making it so that every other woman like me, who likes working with men, who's happy just cracking on next to men, who actually finds men rather better to work for than women because the sisterhood doesn't exist, you're making women poison to work for. If I was, if I was employing someone now, would I employ a woman, especially if I was a man? No, I would not. And women like this do women like me a massive disservice.
Well, that's very well said, and that's true in other areas too. That's true with what Black Lives Matter has been doing, with what Louis Farrakhan Nation of Islam's been doing, with Al Sharpton's been doing, with others have been doing in the racial context. It's not just in the sexual context between men and women. We have now a war between men and women. But Obama stirred up with these other agitators, with these other black radicals. They stirred up this racial divide in this country. So we now have a sex war, we have a race war, and it's tearing this country apart. And we can't have that. And somebody has to stand up and call it out. And, I'll tell you something. I was listening to Sean yesterday, and I like what he has to say, but even he was reflexive because of all that's going on at Fox News, with regard to allegations of sexual harassment. I'm sure some of them are valid. There have been lawsuits that have been settled. I mean, you shouldn't settle it if you haven't done anything wrong. Have the guts to take it to the end. He didn't. He fought it correctly. But that's what's happening in this country, and people are being smeared, and the left is using it. And, of course, this stems as well from the allegations that were made with regard to President Trump in the campaign that came out on NBC with Billy Bush. And, those weren't the correct things to say. The president apologized for it. It wasn't smart. It wasn't classy. But, let's get classy, Washington, D.C. This is not a movie here. This is real life. And you just can't throw these allegations around. And today, everybody's a racist. This last week, Taylor Swift, the country music star, because one of her songs was used by an alleged white supremacist group, she was now called a white supremacist. Her lawyer countered and said, you better retract that or we're going to bring a lawsuit. Now, who came to her defense? You guessed it, the ACLU, this vile group, pro-communist group, atheist group, who has even supported Nazis in the past in Skokie, Illinois. We're up against them a lot. This is the group that destroyed Sheriff Joe Arpaio. This is the group behind it is Eric Holder and all of these leftists. I mean, they've done a few good things in their history. They actually brought cases against the NSA like we did. We were successful. They were not. But I wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them. They're essentially communists, and they're atheists. And that gets back to what we're dealing with today. I mean, let's get back to the Bundy case. I was sitting in the courtroom last week, the left side of the courtroom, during some of these hearings leading up to the trial, which is going to start Tuesday, and I want you to follow that carefully. The opening arguments will open Tuesday. Go to ClivenBundyDefenseFund.org to contribute and to get updates, and go to www.larryklayman.com. Sitting to the left of me in the courtroom were all these ultra-leftist, communist, atheists, reporters. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was the Rocky Horror Picture Show of the left. The Southern Poverty Law Center, who brands everybody as a hate group and a racist. Mother Jones. I have another word to say for them, Mother something else, because I'll tell you something. These people are vile. They are disgusting, and they want to destroy this country. And they're doing a number on Cliven, and I hope that conservative journalists will come out there. There hasn't been many that will cover the Cliven Bundy trial, because he's just getting pummeled from the left by these groups. Now, I'll tell you something. This whole attitude that everybody's a racist, everybody's a sexist, everybody's a sexual harasser, everybody's a misogynist without any proof, this is actually going to backfire on the left, because Trump, of course, is the one they really want to get to. because of the Billy Bush comments and because of false claims that he's a racist, that he's a sexist. You know, his daughter has a prominent role in the White House. He's given a lot of women jobs in his organization, and they've come up the line. Can you believe that anybody from New York is a racist and a sexist? I mean, you won't exist in New York City. So this is all intended to bring down the presidency, and it's part of this leftist revolution on this country. And Roy Moore now is being caught in the crosshairs. But even worse than that is that the establishment Republicans, who are the flip side of the left, they have done as much to destroy this country as the left. Is that immediately when these allegations were made, without any proof one way or the other, you guessed it, John McCain, that mentally demented individual, that senator from Arizona, that reflexively will do anything to harm Trump or anybody else, and he plays to the leftist media, called for Roy Moore to get out of the Senate race. And who did it as well as him? The other senator from Arizona, who fortunately is retiring, Jeff Flake. I mean, he is a flake. And in fact, he's a despicable human being as well. And of course, let's not forget about Mitch McConnell, who also asked for Roy Moore to get out of the race because he wanted his establishment Republican hack candidate, Luther Strange, to run for the Senate in Alabama. These Republicans who have absolutely done nothing, who have not repealed and replaced Obamacare, and I'm going to predict they're going to fall on their face with regard to tax reform. That's not going to happen this year. Now they're thinking about putting it off to 2019. They're going to be thrown out. The Republicans are going to lose control of the House of Representatives because they are worthless, they're dishonest, they're despicable. When I ran for the U.S. Senate in Florida, I ran as a true Republican in the sense of Thomas Jefferson. But the Republican Party today is infested with cockroaches who don't represent the American people, but who sliver around Washington like snakes, stuffing money into their pockets, who have no moral compass, who have no compass of anything. And another one is Paul Ryan in the House, you know, who's undercut Trump every step of the way. The guy's not even serious. He looks like Eddie Munster. I mean, this guy is not for real. And these are the Republicans today. It's a despicable party, and it's almost as bad as the Democrats, who are a bunch of criminals. So this is what we're dealing with. This is why you need a Freedom Watch to rise up on your behalf, the American people, to wage a peaceful, nonviolent revolution any which way we can in the courts and in the courts of public opinion, because our two political parties are corrupt to the core. And we need to help and protect President Trump to clean the swamp, to drain the swamp of the vermin that live in Washington, and not just alligators, but the vermin. So I want you to send this show out to as many people as you can. Go far and wide. The word goes out. The Second American Revolution has begun. We'll be right back with the final segment. And I want you to go to freedomwatchusa.org and contribute to our cause, because we need to ramp up. We need to build up our fighting force in the courts and otherwise legal means. We'll be right back.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I want to briefly now talk about President Trump's trip to Asia this week. Of course, he went to North Korea. He laid it on the line. He told the Koreans, shape up or ship out, which means that if you really want to continue on this march to having intercontinental ballistic missiles to hit the United States, you can expect to be destroyed. And I hope he does it sooner rather than later. I hope he wages a surprise attack. I hope he decimates the entire political leadership and the nuclear infrastructure of North Korea. We don't want civilians to die. But you can't be pussyfooting around. If you're going to do it, do it. When you get up on the dance floor, dance or sit down, because now North Korea is having a chance to strike back and to prepare. It needs to be done immediately. Now, last week he was in China, and of course the left is trashing him for that because he got along with the Chinese leader, the president. President Trump likes people from other countries. He's actually very personable, and there's nothing wrong with that. And he's probably going to be meeting with Vladimir Putin in the next few days. Wait do you see the vicious hacks on the left deal with that he's meeting with Putin. Yes, Putin is evil, but you have to deal with him, and you have to deal with him with strength. And that there's nothing wrong in meeting with Putin. But this tells you what I'm talking about. We have a total breakdown, not just in the media, not just in the legislative branch of government, not just in the executive branch of government underneath the office of the president, because it's being run by the Obama deep state, but we have a breakdown generally in every aspect of government in the courts. You have so many Amy Berman Jacksons on the court these days that it's very, very tough to find a judge who has the courage to do what needs to be done and put his or her foot down. And that's why we need better judges. And because of this total breakdown in government, this is why the one thing that you can do, if nothing else, and I ask you to contribute to our cause, go to freedomwatchusa.org, sign up to urge President Trump to direct the Justice Department to appoint me as special counsel. I'm the only lawyer ever to have a court of law rule that a president of the United States committed a crime. That was Bill Clinton, when he illegally released the Privacy Act protected file of a woman that he sexually harassed in the Oval Office by the name of Kathleen Willey. I'm the only lawyer ever to have challenged the Clintons on their taking bribes from communist China and in exchange giving classified information to the Chinese at that time with regard to our intentions in the Straits of Taiwan and protecting Taiwan, our ally. I'm the only lawyer who has ever enjoined the National Security Agency for illegal surveillance on the American people. Nobody else could do that. I'm the only lawyer who will stick his neck out to do what needs to be done without fear of the consequence. And that's because most lawyers are interested in making money. Most lawyers are interested in going to the soirees of Georgetown in Washington and being socially accepted. I said when I ran for the U.S. Senate in 2003, 2004, I didn't want to be a part of the Senate club. As I've said many times, I wanted to take a club to the U.S. Senate. I was going to take the concept of Judicial Watch inside of the U.S. Senate and bring cases actually against the senators and the representatives and do other things. I would have had a staff from Florida of over 100 people. It would have been unbelievable, much bigger than I had at Judicial Watch. But I didn't win. You know, George W. Bush and his machine worked against me and the other candidates in the race, and they put in their guy. And, of course, we know what happened with George W. Bush. The country almost went down the drain. And that's why we got Obama. Clinton plus Bush equaled Obama. And Obama was much worse than even them. And the country's on its knees right now, and everybody's trying to destroy the president, the one president who has the guts to stand up to these evildoers in both the Republican and the Democratic Party. And that's why we need a special counsel who will take Hillary Clinton and the rest of these leftists apart for their crimes, not just to take them apart, but to gather the evidence that needs to be gathered, to bring criminal prosecutions, to put Hillary Clinton away finally and Bill Clinton away finally in a prison cell. Perhaps they should share their own cell because, frankly, that would be the ultimate punishment. No interns in a federal prison, by the way, I might add. There are other things that go on that are untoward. But this is what we need to do, and this is why we need your support. So go to freedomwatchusa.org, sign that petition. Already thousands have. We need you to stand up for this country. God bless you. God bless America. God save America. We'll be back next week.